right, different frames listeners and fans, we have a very special episode for you tonight. We are going to be talking about the top 10 films of this 21st century so far. Recently, the New York Times has put out a list of the top 100 films that they asked filmmakers and critics what they thought the top 100 films of the 21st century were so far. We had some debate here, little commentaries here in the different frames production studio, if you will, and we talked about like films that what were these like top 30 or so, and what wasn't included, how were they ordered. And so it got us talking about, what would we say as our like top 10. So we compiled some lists each, and we decided, let's kind of present them to you guys, and kind of discuss them here. So we have my co-host here, Greg Joya,
Hello.
and then our producer David Kennedy.
Hello. This is also the first one we're doing video for, so lots of firsts. Yeah, so quickly, the methodology we use to come to the official certified definitive top 10 movies of the 21st century, of which there are 14, is that we each submitted a list that had 10 titles, and we ranked them. Number 1 gets 10 points, number 10 gets 1 point. Compared them all together, and then made this list. Now, there's a few of these that were ranked very highly on one list that made it onto the list because only one of us gave it 10 points. And then there's a few of them we agree with, so I think it should be a fairly broad cross-section of everything.
Yeah. But no, I definitely noticed that. We were, in fact, talking about that a moment ago. I think there's only one movie that was on both, or all three of our lists. The other ones, there was some crossover, but there's only one that we all three, I think we listed 15 each, was that right?
Yeah, we each did 15.
And there was just one film that we each had in there, which was surprising. I thought there might be a little more crossover, but
different frames.
Not surprisingly, that one ended up in first place because we all gave it some points.
Totally.
But yeah, it's pretty interesting the way, certain things that weren't on, or just one person's list, that was enough to push it up there because we had it in first or second place.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So maybe we can talk a little bit about how, like, our first episode for the podcast was about like our Handshake 5, right? Like films that might not be what we think is, the best necessarily, or even our favorites at the moment. But these are films that kind of, were personal to us.
Personal, right? Yeah. Films that kind of made us, yeah.
So maybe we can talk about like how your approach to this list was, kind of in relation to something like that.
Yeah. So I'll jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
I tried to think of it kind of in two ways. I tried. So as you know, I actually made my list of 100.
Right.
And as I was compiling that early on, I was like putting all these films on the list that I thought might qualify. And I tried to pull off films that I felt were more Handshake 5-ish, like the films that like I personally like, but I really kind of like last episode, right? Where they're not great films necessarily, but we like, like Clean Slate or something. That would never make a top 100, probably never make a top 1,000 list, but I like something about it, or The New Guy, or Tammy and the T-Rex. And so I tried to kind of definitely keep films off that I thought maybe aren't great films per se. But then I did try to give a little more weight to films that spoke to me in some way. So if I found it especially entertaining or moving, that was sometimes enough, but I still tried to skew it towards cinematic excellence more than, I personally was just super into it, because there's a lot of movies. I watch movies all the time. I just saw that new Fantastic Four movie. I loved it. It's not a top 100 movie, but I had a blast watching it. But I can tell it's not great cinema. It's just a fun superhero movie. So that was at least how I approached it. I tried to make it less handshakey and more, critically acclaimed and also awesome to me.
How about you, Antonio?
Yeah, that was similar to my approach. I think part of my like difficulty in making this list was there were films that were like very personal to me and that I really enjoyed, even by the same filmmaker, let's say. And then I started kind of comparing the two in my head. And, I feel like this list is going to change throughout my lifetime, obviously. But, I kind of leaned more towards cinematic qualities and
Yeah.
how those worked all together rather than just, oh, that changed my mind or formed my opinion strongly at the time.
Yeah, my method was not. It was. I was trying not to think as much about legacy on this stuff, because there's movies that are beloved, and I would agree are incredibly good and whatever, but more of I was trying to focus on making my list kind of cover a decently wide swath of stuff, but all of it is what I would consider both very well made and particularly speaks to me or to something that matters to me. And so but I wanted for instance to make sure that I didn't all have just like studio movies on there or all independents or all.
Well,
I
we
wanted
need
to
that.
try to cover a bit of a few steps of stuff. So cool.
Yours was everything on Antonio's list. I think I had seen. You had at least 3 or 4 I'd never heard of. So it was
hell yeah.
You had your own list, a very very
Deeper
unique,
cut
very
stuff.
personal list. Yeah.
Cool. So do we want to start from the bottom?
So when we ranked these out, we did the points, and I did a chart with 15 just because in case there were ties.
Cool.
So it was The Irishman came in 15th. E Tu Mama Tambien was 14th. A film I've never heard of. This is one of the David specials here. My Winnipeg. That you'll have to tell us about that at some point. Number
I'll talk
13.
about that.
Then there was one that was only on my list. I was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. That was 12.
Good one.
First Reformed was 11. So those were the ones that just almost made it. It was just matter of like a point really. So those are the films that the also rans, the almosts, the honorable mention. They get a participation trophy. But number 10, who wants to? That was on both mine and Antonio's list. Why don't you talk about it, Antonio?
So number 10, we have Martin Scorsese's The Departed. Bum, bum, came out in 2006. Very popular movie. But if you haven't seen it, here's a quick description. To take down South Boston's Irish mafia, the police send in one of their own to infiltrate the underworld, not realizing the syndicate has done likewise. While an undercover cop curries favor with the mob kingpin, a career criminal rises through the police ranks. But both sides soon discover that there's a mole among them. This movie stars a bunch of people. We'll start with Leonardo DiCaprio, Matt Damon, and Jack Nicholson. Those are like the top 3 guys in this movie. But this movie has a huge cast of ensemble actors, and it's just a great movie. Do you want to speak a little bit about it?
Marky Mark, Alec Baldwin, probably other people. It's full of stars. But yeah, no, I mean, it's a beloved movie. It's everybody. In fact, that was one I thought might have been on all 3 of ours. David didn't have it on his.
It is good. It is really good, but yeah, it did not make the cut.
It would have.
I found it interesting that we had Martin Scorsese was the only director that had 2 films on our top list, with The Irishman and then at 15, and then Departed at number 10.
Yep.
And I knew he had to be on there somewhere, but I was kind of like, wow, he got 2 spots on here.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the masters. So if anybody deserves it, it's him. But like, what do you even say about it? It's just a really it's one of those movies that it's fun to watch. I think like anybody can watch it and just appreciate it as like a thrilling cop crime undercover agent movie. But then it's got just those cinematic touches. It's Scorsese. It's I don't have to say at his finest. I think he's made even better movies, but
Mhm.
it's as good as anything he's done. So, and you get that great scene where early on when Mark Wahlberg, or not Mark Wahlberg, when Matt Damon wins, or one of them, is it Damon, when they're like, who is he? He's the Departed. You're like, oh, there, he said the name.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we can
The
go ahead and
Departed. It's
great.
interesting that you say that because I feel like Martin Scorsese has made so many different types of movies, and there's movies
Yeah.
more when I recollect them that I think more immediately about that story and how I wanna watch that story again. And with The
Hmm.
Departed, it's more like, it's not just a gangster film like Goodfellas or whatever, because it has this other side to it of
Hmm.
the cops and, the mob and the intertwining of them. And, maybe that premise doesn't immediately sell me as much as like a concept like Taxi Driver. Like Taxi Driver sounds like more unique, but
Hmm.
the way that Departed is executed and just immediately you're just pulled right into this world, and he's pulling out all the stops cinematically and acting wise, and it just like you said, like such a fun movie to watch, and the three
Yeah,
hours goes by like that.
it's quick for what it is. The only movie I ever can think of that I would like the same kind of thing is the movie Heat.
Hmm.
It's the same thing where you've got like it's equally compelling on both the law and the crime, the good and the bad. Like
Hmm.
there's not usually you're a Goodfellas. It's all about the criminals. Like you're not even really aware of who the law is. Same thing with The Godfather. There's so many of those movies. They'll pick, or there'll be a movie about the cops trying. And this one though, you're getting it from both ends, and it's like you're just as into each story. And you don't get that much. Like I said, there's probably other versions, but the two excellent ones I can think of are The Departed and Heat.
And it's, like, so seamless in this movie, like, the way it progresses and the editing
Hmm.
and, like, the flip between these stories.
Hmm. And you don't know what's going to happen. You legit like usually you can kind of tell where it's going. I'm not going to spoil anything, but like there's no way that you see almost any of the from the start to the beginning, start to the end. Like it's just constantly surprising you with what they do. Although I suppose it's based on Infernal Affairs, so if you've seen that, then maybe you know it's
Sure.
coming. But
Mhm,
as
yeah.
far as like watching this out of the blue, like this is not the kind of movie where you can sit down and say, okay, he's going to do this, he's going to do that, he's going to get caught, he's going to live, he's going to die. It's like it's just you have no idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I feel like The Departed is kind of the first like modern Martin Scorsese movie. Like, it's the first one in the style that he currently works in. And it's
Yeah.
like where it's to me, I feel like the way Martin Scorsese's movies work now are like, it very much is like he's like, he's the master who's been doing this for a very long time, and he's like really kind of perfected his style. And I feel like that's the first one that operates in that new, more perfected, like where the editing is super tight, despite the fact that it's 3 hours long. He's got kind of his new kind of company of players moving through it. Is this the first one he did with DiCaprio? As a side note.
I think
Was
Gangs of New
what,
York was
Oh,
Gangs of
yeah,
before
yeah,
this.
yeah, that
that's
is right. That is right before it. Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
That's '02. But yeah, no, but it's like it really is kind of, it feels like it's like the reaching the pinnacle of the place he is now.
Yeah, no, it is true. Like it was De Niro for the longest time. Now it was like he he changed it up. Like a lot of directors can't do that.
Right.
Uh, Woody
Right.
Allen did it, but like most directors, they kind of have their thing and they do it for a while, then it kind of fades away. Um, John Ford did it,
Hmm.
but like there's not too many directors I can think of that really were able to last a long time and make a consistent, like a large body of work, and just kind of keep setting the because he's not he's not trying to copy someone. He's doing his own thing.
Right.
He's just doing it
Yeah.
differently than he did it 20 years before that.
Yeah, it's like he evolves as a
Yeah,
filmmaker, I
he
think.
certainly does, and he stays good. I haven't seen the Killers of the Flower Moon, the newest one, but
Yeah.
I
It's
need to
very
go see
good.
that. The Irishman, like he keeps them coming. So so yeah, that's number 10, The Departed. Anything else we think we need to add to that, or?
I was just say this was his first, Oscar,
Oh, that's
win for
right.
Best Director.
That's right.
well deserving, I would say, but also kind
Yeah.
of like, how was it his first? He had made
Yeah,
so many
he deserved
great,
it so many
great
times
films.
before that, but I guess at least they gave him one. He won't
Right.
be
Yeah,
like Hitchcock
finally.
or somebody, where you look back like, how did Hitchcock never get a Best Director? So yeah, good point.
Absolutely.
Right. Moving to number
Number
9.
9.
Number 9. I guess this is mine, right? This was just on my list. I had this pretty high. Did I have this fourth on my list? I think. It's Adaptation. It's a Spike Jonze movie from 2002. I'll read the letterbox. So it says here, from the creator of Being John Malkovich comes the story about the creator of Being John Malkovich. And that sums it up right there. Charlie Kaufman is a confused LA screenwriter overwhelmed by feelings of inadequacy, sexual frustration, self-loathing, and by the screenwriting ambitions of his freeloading twin brother Donald. While struggling to adapt The Orchid Thief by Susan Orlean, Kaufman's life spins from pathetic to bizarre. The lives of Kaufman, Orlean's book, become strangely intertwined as each one's search for passion collides with the others. And we've got Nicolas Cage playing both twins. Meryl Streep is in here. Tilda Swinton is in here. Probably some other people. Those are the main folks. Maggie Gyllenhaal. It says she's got a role. I don't remember her what she did in there, but she's in there. But yeah, Adaptation. So I love this movie. I think it's it's like Spike Jonze and Charlie Kaufman. Their movies are always bizarre and they kind of fold in on each other. But this one, it's like it keeps like everything. Every time you think it's folded back in on itself and it's turned meta, somehow it's like when you take a piece of paper, you can only fold a piece of paper 8 times. Or like they just manage to keep folding it, and it keeps turning inside out on itself. And like it's so satisfying watching everything they're talking about here happens there, and all the things. Well, what if this? Well, that's ridiculous. That one, and then later you realize, well, hey, that's happening. What they were talking about an hour ago. And it is. It's kind of like a movie about talking about making a movie about the movie you're making while you're talking about being in the movie and what might happen in the movie that your life is going to be. And it's like you need to diagram it out while you watch it. And I love it. And again, it's one of these movies that's like totally surface level entertaining. You could watch it just as like not even paying attention to not even realizing there's anything self-referential or meta at all. And it's just like a fun, funny story. Or you could watch it like a work of almost literature mixed with film and just be blown away and then watch it again to try to figure out what the hell you just saw. So yeah, absolutely one of my favorite all-time, not even just the past 25 years, but just, one of my all-time favorites right there.
Yeah, I love this movie because one, I love Being John Malkovich so to have like a movie that brings that in, which is already a complicated movie, but kind of brings your knowledge of that movie into this like, fictionalized version of Charlie Kaufman, prolific screenwriter with like a crazy mind, into his like fictional story. It's just so fun to watch, and like the way the story unfolds is like you said, just takes all these twists and turns. I will say so this movie is a movie about movies, but what I like about it is that it's more about like life, really, ultimately.
Yeah.
And how like a screenwriter is like trying to understand his life more than being like, oh, the movies. I just love the movies, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that can only go so far, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, I feel like Adaptation. I feel like the first time I saw it, it really blew my mind. Just that it opens on the set of Being John Malkovich, which I had watched like 2 hours before.
Okay.
The first time I saw it, and so it was like just that alone, and like just the kind of the audacity of it as a film, that like Charlie Kaufman was actually hired to adapt The Orchid Thief, and this is the script he wrote.
I love he writes a script about a guy writing a script about adapting the book they told him to adapt.
Right.
And in the script about the script, he's writing the script about the script, and it's like it keeps going in on itself.
And and I think it's interesting too, as I think Kaufman is kind of one of the only screenwriters people talk about really as just a screenwriter. He has directed some stuff now, but like in a way, it's like when this movie comes out, people talk more about Kaufman's contributions than Spike Jonze.
I
Despite the fact
of
that I think that they work very well together.
Yeah. It's like you think of it as a Kaufman movie, but you're right, yeah.
He has such a distinct style as a writer that kind of, because even his work with Michel Gondry, Eternal Sunshine, is like, it feels very of a note with this in a way that like Spike Jonze's later work wouldn't when they're not working together. So it's clear that like Kaufman's the glue holding the ideas together there.
Yeah, no,
I'm glad one of Kaufman's made it on here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. That's probably all we need to say about adaptation. Let's move on to number 8 was this was another one that Antonio and I both had. Very, very close too. I think I had it maybe one spot higher than you. But why don't you take number 8?
All right, number 8 we have Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan. This movie came out in 2014. Here's the synopsis. Mankind was born on Earth. It was never meant to die here. The adventures of a group of explorers who make use of a newly discovered wormhole to surpass the limitations on human space travel and conquer the vast distances involved in an interstellar voyage. That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting description. The movie is, I think, a lot more personal, and it feels, that description kind of felt more of an adventure movie, and this movie is actually like probably one of the more like interpersonal films I've seen set against like the science fiction adventure backdrop. I think a lot of people kind of associate these types of movies with Spielberg, and it was interesting at one point Steven Spielberg was set to attach this movie. But what Christopher Nolan brings with his like, already established like use of, time and parallel storytelling to like this story and this premise, I think it really changed like cinema in a way. I mean, it's been 10 years since this movie came out, and there was recently like re-release in IMAX that I went to go see, and it was just absolutely amazing. Like everybody's just crying the whole time, like, and it was weird because this movie's modern, but like in the middle of it, it was kind of like it felt like a classic, it just like, so it gave me this weird feeling, like it was already a timeless movie, and it's only been like 10 years.
You hit on something really too, because the description they went full in on the sci-fi side of it, but the best sci-fi is always like kind of a personal story about humanity and just the real world, with the sci-fi there to somehow like, make a point or teach a lesson or, kind of illustrate something. And yeah, like at its heart, this is more of just like a story about relationship and sacrifice and like a connection between people that has those sci-fi trappings. So yeah, that's what makes, because if it was strictly just, a science fiction adventure, it might be a very interesting movie, but it would be a lot more one note. I don't think it would have anywhere near the staying power. It's a very beloved movie. Like we're not the only ones who have this, among our top 10. So I think that's at the core of it, is that it's more than just spaceships and black holes and finding a way to save the Earth. So,
right.
Yeah.
Because like 2001 would be like that, what you're talking about, right? Like this more science fiction, not really about characters necessarily. It's more about these bigger themes. And then Interstellar is like taking an influence of 2001, but like making about a father and daughter, right?
Yeah.
A family.
Yeah. 2001, I don't know, it's a different movie in its own way. Yeah, it doesn't have the that kind of family human story to it. But yeah, it's definitely more than just like, that it's almost like there's that section in the movie where it's like, here's the exciting sci-fi part with those kind of bookends, where this is more, if anything, like the sci-fi kind of bookending but it's more interspersed. But yeah, it's same thing though, where they're not just, and that's why they're both, I think, considered so great. Whereas something like, I don't know, like The Martian was very fun movie, similar thing, but I don't think it's, it's just another one of those exciting outer space movies as opposed to Interstellar or 2001.
Yeah, I think what's interesting to me is that one of the criticisms that Christopher Nolan often gets is that his work is not very emotionally heavy. And this feels like the major counterpoint to that. It's like, this is his most, I would say his most, I don't want to say sentimental per se, but like his most emotionally weighty movie, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're going to cry at a Nolan movie, it's going to be this one.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just think like the visual effects are incredible, and like even though they only go to a handful of planets, it's just like that water planet is just so intense.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's such a great scene. Just as you realize what they're encountering, yeah. And then that ending though is it's another fantastic. I think well deserved on this list.
I would say another thing I noticed, having seen it a few months ago, was that I was seeing more parallels of like more mythic storytelling in it. He references Homer with, I think, from the Iliad a couple times in the movie, like they quote him. And I was thinking about like, the Odyssey and how maybe he used that as like somewhat of an outline for Interstellar. And then, it's not like 1-to-1, but I think overall there's certain things that
it makes sense. I don't remember the quote. Yeah. Does he quote the Iliad or the Odyssey?
I think he quotes the Iliad.
Okay, because the story very much parallel. Because the Odyssey is the Odysseus has gone out for 10 years, fought the war, then another 10 years to get home, and that is kind of what he goes out. All that time passes, and everyone is waiting for him. They don't know if he's alive. He wants to get home before his time runs out. So it's much more parallel with the Odyssey, which Christopher Nolan is currently filming right now. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting how I saw that.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Interesting. All right. So from Interstellar to another just over the top exciting.
Yes. I think this is the only one that was only on my list that made the.
Is that true?
Overall list. There's ones that were on my list that made the list, but I think it's the only one that was exclusive.
That is true. Yeah, because we kind of somehow First Reformed got unfairly booted down. Yeah, that is right. So this is your moment to shine.
So I have here at number 7, Tsai Ming-liang's 2003 film Goodbye Dragon Inn. Reading the description here. On a dark and rainy night, a historic Regal Taipei cinema sees its final film, the 1967 martial arts feature Dragon Inn. This stars, as every Tsai Ming-liang film does, Li Kangsheng as the character Cao Kang, who in this movie is a projectionist at a movie theater in Taiwan, as it shows the 1967 King Hu wuxia martial arts film Dragon Inn, which is a pretty perennial classic over there. It's kind of considered one of the most artistically strong martial arts films in a genre that the budgets kept going down and the martial artists kept moving on to better things. So it was kind of made at the peak of its thing. So I guess as background on this movie, it is exceptionally slow, almost wordless. The story is of this movie theater that's falling apart, and an old man brings his grandson to see this old movie. In the meantime, the ticket teller lady is looking for the projectionist and cannot find him. And there's also another guy who's wandering around the theater looking for love and not succeeding. And that is all that happens in the entire movie. I think that this is I think this is one of the most moving movies about movies ever, because it is less about the movie on the screen and more about the movie theater as a location that enables social interaction with other people. Sometimes against your will, as is the person who keeps putting their feet next to his head and the person who is very loudly eating peanuts the entire movie.
So
But
I had a totally different. This is interesting hearing watching it. I had a totally different interpretation.
Interesting. I'd love to get into that. Yeah. It is, but as it's going on, some people are making connections. Some people are trying to make connections. And everybody is gathering to say goodbye to Dragon Inn. The Chinese title is Bu San, which like literally translates to like never leave, or is used kind of in the idiom all good things must come to an end. So I think the title in Chinese kind of gives maybe more of an indication of the tone than the English title does. But yeah, I think neither of you guys had seen this.
I'd never heard of it until it was on your list, but I watched it. I found it on I forget. I texted you guys it
was on Kino.
Kino, yeah. So I got like a free week of Kino, but I'm gonna see it again because they happen to be that director whose name I can't pronounce.
Simon Long.
Yeah, he's gonna come in later this month. They're doing like a retrospective, and he's actually gonna be there to introduce some of them. And one of the ones they're showing. So I'm gonna go see it again in a movie theater.
Yes, I
enjoyed it. Although it was interesting because I when you describe, I guess the plot as it were. So I watched it. My takeaway, maybe I told it wrong. I didn't get the looking for love aspect. I thought about the only word that is spoken is at one point somebody says the theater is haunted.
Yes,
and so I thought you got that. I guess as close to the main characters, the guy who periodically is like sticking his face in people's. So I assumed he was the ghost.
Oh, interesting.
When he does that, people don't bat an eye. He puts his face right up against them, and they just watch.
Oh,
and then the person puts the feet up, like they don't like. They're eating. They're doing all these things where no one ever seems to acknowledge that he's there. So I thought maybe he's supposed to be the only time anybody acknowledges him is the one guy tells him, there might be a ghost here or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought he was the ghost. That's why he was.
Interesting.
I didn't think he was looking for love. I thought he was. That's why he was getting in people's business because like they didn't see him because no one ever.
Nobody really acknowledges him.
Right. But again, maybe I'm off base on that.
No, I think that's a very interesting interpretation. I think the work is intentionally very abstract at that. I always interpret it as he's like not bored per se, but as much as he's like trying to see if there's anybody who wants to do anything more exciting at the theater.
Okay, I didn't get that at all. I'm not. When I watch it again, I'm going to think of that.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot though. I thought it was very beautiful. I love silent movies, so I was fine with just. And it's like they really like the woman has the problem with her foot, so she walks on like when she goes up each step to all the way to the top and all the way across, all the way like they just milk it for everything it's worth. And no, but it's beautiful. And having that movie showing, and if I'm correct, one of the men in the audience is the guy who was in that movie.
Yes,
like
two of the men in the audience.
Yes,
two of the men in the audience were actors in the original movie.
Two of them. Okay, I knew one,
but both the old guys.
Okay. And and the guy taking his son, kind of passing his love of cinema onto the little kid at the last night of that. No, and it was great. And then it was like I couldn't possibly describe this to someone and make it seem like a great because if I told them, it's just nothing. No one talks.
Nothing happens.
It's just this people are walking around the bowels of an old theater and it's raining and but it's a very enchanting, It's a surprisingly to me really good movie. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. So I'm glad you mentioned it because I probably never would have watched it, and I probably would not have bothered to go see it. it wanted to
Yeah.
caught my eye on the calendar at the Austin Film Society. So
Yeah, that's
that's
really
cool
cool
that
that
it's
he's coming to
playing.
Austin.
yeah, you guys.
He's in
come
LA
out.
right this second.
Oh, okay.
Because they're doing
wow.
some of his stuff. So I think he's just moving across
Oh,
the
right,
country.
you're
Okay.
right.
He
I
must
think
be
he's
doing
doing
it.
some stuff in New York too. So I think he's just gonna move across the country. But
Yeah, I'm fortunate that Austin has a surprisingly
Yeah.
robust theaters. Like, maybe even better than we had in the Bay Area. Like, that's one of the things moving here that I think has actually been an improvement for me is the access I have to art films and old films and revival, and
totally.
there's a lot
Yeah.
going on here cinematically.
What did you
So,
think? What did you think, Antonio?
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch this movie for a while. I saw the movie Stray Dogs that he directed. That movie was very challenging for me. I came away from that movie finding it hard to like articulate my thoughts and like even think about it critically because it's very slow. Like if this movie was slow cinema, that movie is
Oh, that one's
has a
glacial.
18-minute long shot of a guy just staring at a wall.
That's true.
And
Oh,
you
then there's a
know,
10-minute reverse shot of the wall.
yes, yeah, you're right. It's like a 20-minute just of, and every sort of thought goes through your head, I think, in those, at least for me. But I really like this sort of, Eastern slow cinema and like these slice of life type of things. And I think this was a good balance because it's kind of short, but it's also like, I'm a filmmaker and I guess I obviously have like a voyeuristic tendency because I like to like people watch and I like to watch movies. And this is like you were saying, this is sort of like the ultimate ode to that. Watching people watch a movie and like the drama that forms in your own head without people speaking. And I quickly was like, okay, why is this guy's looking for like sexual relations from the other patrons here. So I was like, but what's he like? How's he gonna go about this? Like,
so you thought that too?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I had a lot of thoughts about this movie that it's like I think will take years to like sort of digest, but I think ultimately it was great because it's about how like the art form of cinema is like at the one hand it is dying, it is constantly in the state of dying, yet there are these elements of the kid going to see it, and so he's going to become enraptured by like the images he sees on screen, and this thirst or this sort of primal thing of like how us as humans we need this sort of art, this storytelling form. We just need it, and whether it's in this exact form of like these old movies or whatever, I think it will continue. So it was kind of like about how like cinema is always changing, just how our like need for art is like changing. That was my interpretation.
Hell yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I
more than anything, I just love. So I love the actual cinemas, like those old movie palaces.
Yeah.
Whenever I live somewhere, like we only have one kind of like that here, but I'm there all the time in Austin. And in the Bay Area, there were several, and I would go whenever possible. And I just love exploring and going up into the balconies and the box seats. And I used to do events at this one building that had one. They'd let me up into like the attic, and I would just always be looking at I just love those buildings. So it was kind of cool, just the way they'd be moving through it. And then this place wasn't as grand of a palace; it was more like almost like a strip mall 70s or something like. But it was still just interesting seeing like the theater itself, not the movie, but like the theater as a character.
Right.
Usually there's like, the love of movies or the movie, but this was like the actual physical building. And I really appreciated that.
Yeah. As a final note on it, when that movie theater that he filmed it in closed in like 2005. And I guess important to note, Simon Long is originally from Malaysia. There's a pretty big Chinese community in Malaysia, and he always talked about how movies from like the 60s and 50s for his parents who were Chinese born people who didn't really feel a connection to China or Taiwan. They always thought of movies as almost this like fictional like dream China. That's like the one they identified with. And so when that movie theater closed in Taiwan, he rescued some of the seats from it. He got like 2 or 3 rows of seats and brought them back to Malaysia to set up a small movie theater for the Chinese community that he grew up in to show old movies to them in the seats from the theater from Goodbye Dragonette.
That's great. So is this a Malaysian film, a Chinese film, a Taiwanese film?
It's a Taiwanese film, but the director was technically born in Malaysia.
Okay. Huh. I don't know much. I've seen a lot of the Hong Kong movies, but they're always like those action police or this was very different. So maybe the Taiwanese cinema. Okay. Yeah. Well,
this sent me on a little Taiwanese cinema kick a couple days after.
Oh yeah. What else you watch?
Yeah. I watched Millennium Mambo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Very cool.
So number 6. It's
number 6. Moving on. A little tonal shift.
Yeah, this is quite the tonal shift. So number 6, we have the classic Napoleon Dynamite, directed by Jared Hess. It was released in 2004. Tagline is, "He's out to prove he's got nothing to prove." A listless and alienated teenager decides to help his new friend win the class presidency in their small Western high school, while he must deal with his bizarre family life back home. So this is a movie. Yeah, I guess so. This is a movie I'm sure almost everybody has seen. This is just probably one of the funniest movies like of all time for me, and it's really stupid. Like me and my dad would just like crack up watching it, and my mom would be like, "This is so stupid. I don't know how you guys like watching it." But we would just be cracking up. And like the jokes are silly and stuff, but it's so much about the character and like the setting of I think they're in Idaho.
Yeah, it's Boise, Idaho.
Oh yeah.
Boise, Idaho. Yeah, and this just weird sort of town and these characters that populate the town, and just so quotable and funny, and I don't know, it makes me feel good.
Hell yeah.
And it's a polarizing movie. I remember hearing that in the early days, Netflix, like, I don't know if they'd offer a reward or what it was, but like their thing was like, if anybody could come up with an algorithm that could predict if a person would like Napoleon Dynamite, then they'd give you something, because it was like that was the only, or not, like it was like the most polarizing movie they had. They had no way, like they knew if you liked The Departed, you'd probably like Heat or Goodfellas. Like,
Right.
Napoleon Dynamite, they had no read on that at all. They had no way to see. And I've noticed that too. Like people that you think would, my wife, like she doesn't tend to like quirky, weird indie, but she loves Napoleon Dynamite. And like I would have guessed, when I first met her, like it's probably not her type of movie, but it just, you never know who's going to like it.
Oh yeah, it is. I think the reason it works for me is all the character stuff. I think Uncle Rico is one of the saddest characters maybe in contemporary cinema. He has the thing about his throwaway line where he's like, "The time machine doesn't work. I already tried it." Is like so sad because he's got to throw the football over that mountain, dude.
Yeah, he wants to go back and win the championship.
And I feel like so much of it is about like people trying to figure out where they fit in and how they, in their understanding of the world, and all of their understandings of the world are so weird that like, of course you can't fit into anything. You don't have any clue who you are.
Right.
Except
like,
for Kit.
You'll see it.
Kit's got it figured out.
Yeah, he ends up figuring it out. But like you see a character like learn something, and then like the next scene they're trying to incorporate that thing into their life and see how it turns out. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. I remember when that movie was coming out, they would show the trailer all the time at the It was the Act One. It's just like an art house theater I'd go to, and I kept seeing that trailer, and I was just sold over it. Like, there was the scene where he's like going to pick up the girl, and the car with the hydraulics in the background. And the guy's like, "That's my ride." I was like, at that, I was like, I got to see this. So like opening day, I was there. I was like, I need to see this movie, and I was not disappointed. It was like he had that 70s thrift shop tuxedo, and it was just, and it was perfect for the time too. When that movie came out, it was just like it fit. And on my own 100 list, I think I put it at 51st, but I could easily have had it, top 10. It's like it's just like everything else about the movie. It's impossible to place it. Like it's just such a strange yet awesome movie that, like, I think you had it number 2 on your list, and I was like, that actually makes perfect sense. Like, 2 is just 99, 2 wherever you put it, it makes sense. So
it's almost hard to talk about it without just quoting it over and over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's like there's so many.
It's like the only way to understand something like the Rex Kwon Do, the martial arts instructor, is just to like say Rex Kwon Do over and over again.
And I really wonder, because I've never really met anybody, like a foreigner or somebody in another country, that has seen this movie actually. So I've never asked anybody about this. I've only talked to like Americans, and so I would wonder, like, what people outside of the country think about this movie, because it's very American, like very like middle American, sort of like middle of nowhere type of movie. You kind of have to have met people like this to really get it, I think.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's yeah. You probably don't.
But yeah, if you're living in another country and you've seen Napoleon Dynamite, please comment or email us or let us know what you think.
Totally.
So
move along.
Yeah, move along.
Number 5.
Number 5 is me. So number 5, we're on me again. This was my number 1 when I had to come up with my top movies, and I was sorting through them. Pretty early on, I was bouncing this and one in the movie back and forth, but pretty early on, I realized this is going to be the number 1 movie. And let me find it on Letterboxd here. So it says here it's Donnie Darko from 2001, directed by Richard Kelly. 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. That is when the world will end. After narrowly escaping a bizarre accident, a troubled teenager is plagued by visions of a large bunny rabbit that manipulates him to commit a series of crimes. That happens.
I guess that's kind of what happens.
Like I don't know that I would have summed it up that way, but then at the same time, it's a bizarre film. So that definitely happens as much as anything else happens. I've heard people describe it as a superhero movie, which in a bizarre way it is. Even in the movie, there's one point where Donnie Darko, he says, Peter Parker or Clark Kent. It's like one of these alliterative names that he refers to himself as a superhero. I really love movies, and I love puzzles, and I love, like, one of my favorite kind of puzzles are these logic problems. If you ever did those where they give you just the bare minimum shred of evidence, they'll tell you like 5 facts, and you can decide, like, what color sweater everybody was wearing and what day they went to the movie and what movie they saw. And it's like, you get just the bare amount of facts. And this movie is like that, where, so when I first saw this movie, when it came out, and my friend and I, we went and saw it, and afterwards we talked for a couple hours just trying to make sense of what we'd seen. And we kind of just pieced it together based on, and we came up with, like, what we thought was kind of the exact factual flow of events that we had seen, what we thought, because it's very cryptic, and you're left, like, there's a lot of open to interpretation, but we felt there was, like, one, shred of evidence here and a little bit of evidence there, that we kind of pieced this story together. And then a few years later, they came out with the director's cut, which I thought was a terrible version. And in the director's cut, like, they literally, like, they're spooned to the point where, like, words will appear on screen, like, now this is happening, so watch this because this means this, and this book, and it, like, it literally writes on the screen.
Yeah.
But what I found very, like, vindicating, I guess, is that exactly what we had pieced together from just this bare minimum evidence was exactly to the letter what he ends up spelling out for you in this director's cut. And to me, that is like a perfect movie, because when you can give the audience just barely enough that if they're paying attention and they're thinking, they can connect all these disparate dots into the one actual true cohesive narrative that is hidden there, then you've succeeded. And the number 2 movie I have is like almost like that, but it doesn't, like there is no, at least as far as I can tell, there's no exact definitive, this is what happened. There's like a pretty darn sure it's this, but it could be that. And by itself, that's not enough if it's like a terrible movie. But Donnie Darko, you just like we were talking about almost all these movies, like an adaptation where you can watch this just as like a straightforward, interesting kind of sci-fi movie and just enjoy it without even thinking about subplots and little, what is that thing coming out of it, and what is that old lady, and what, and it's just this perfect mix. It's one of my, I don't know if my favorite movie is, like, my favorite movies are different, but this to me is one of the best crafted movies in terms of like telling a story of any movie I've ever seen. So that's
nice.
And some people hate it. So if you guys, I'm curious what you guys think of Donnie Darko.
Oh, I love this movie. I think it's kind of like, in some ways, like the ultimate cult movie, because I'm not sure if it's necessary. It's very popular, but I'm not sure it's ever really like made it into the mainstream. I could be
That is
kind of
true.
wrong about that at this point, but I think it's been like that sort of like, oh, have you seen Donnie Darko? Like, that's a mindfuck movie. And what's fascinating to me about the movie is that how much, I've maybe seen it twice and maybe half of the director's cut. And, I just catch myself like thinking about scenes or how like certain things unfold in that movie. And it's very fun to watch, but also like it has this whole like metaphysical, like spiritual element to it that's like very heady and trippy to think about. And yeah, I think the director's cut, it was kind of interesting to watch, like have it give a little more information, but as a movie, it was like a mess because it would just completely stop the pacing of the movie to be like, here's a couple paragraphs that you need to read.
It was so frustrating watching that.
Yeah,
It felt like they dumbed it down. I guess maybe they wanted to make it more mainstream, and they knew they had to kind of dumb it down. Like M. Night Shyamalan does that a lot, where he'll stop it and then show you these things like, here's, and I'm like, you don't need to do that. Like, we get it. Spoiler: Bruce Willis was killed. Right? He's a ghost. Like, I didn't need you to go back and show me all the, just tell us that he's a ghost and we'll figure it out. Or maybe that's his genius. He knows most people need that, but like, I don't want that. I'd rather just piece it together.
And that Tears for Fears needle drop is probably like one of the best needle drops of all time.
Tier,
like,
top tier.
You're like, this is why I watch movies. This is amazing.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like Donnie Darko very much, it fits into, I guess there's kind of like almost like a little movement of movies like in the very late 90s into the early 2000s. Like Fight Club obviously is, I think, where it's the kind of the kind of puzzle box movies that are, I don't think any of them did that well, like financially, but all of them are kind of these cult classics now that people still to this day are sitting there talking about, what was really going on in that movie.
Usual Suspects was like that.
Yeah. Usual Suspects is a good example. Yeah, it's like there's kind of that
transcends those though. I feel like
it does. I agree.
I love Fight Club. It's a very clever. I mean, Brad Pitt, just the clothes he's wearing. It's a joy to watch it. But Donnie Darko just nails it. Like it just like even Fight Club, when they tell you the big reveal, then they show you. Here he is doing. It's like, okay, yeah, we get it. He was punching himself. He dropped the beer. He was handing himself the beer. Like
totally.
It was
Donnie Darko, I think, gets around that, not just because it just doesn't show you, all the twist stuff like that, but it also is, I think it's much more like of an emotional logic Where it's like, even if you're like confused by what's actually happening in the movie, it all feels right. Like it all feels like it should be happening.
Yeah. It leaves it up to you to interpret it. And to The Matrix is another one that I think did a better job, where they didn't really like they gave you the information and then but like they didn't need to spell it out, but they resolved everything. This Donnie Darko does resolve everything, but you aren't really aware of it unless you really think about it. So, yeah, but I know, like, even from putting it on, like, when I posted this list on Substack, and got actually surprisingly, I thought I'd get more, negative feedback, how people love to complain. I got mostly positive, but there were a few people who were like, "Yeah, Donnie Darko, that's not the best. The best movie was Pirates of the Caribbean," and so it did get a little pushback, but it makes sense, like, because it isn't for everybody. But
sure,
but yeah, it's my jam.
Number four, Antonio?
Number four, we have a movie we've previously discussed on this podcast. It is Inglourious Bastards, directed by Quentin Tarantino. This movie came out in 2009. The movie synopsis is: in Nazi-occupied France during World War II, a group of Jewish American soldiers known as the Bastards are chosen specifically to spread fear throughout the Third Reich by scalping and brutally killing Nazis. The Bastards, led by Lieutenant Aldo Rain, soon cross paths with a French-Jewish teenage girl who runs a movie theater in Paris, which is targeted by the soldiers. Okay, so yeah, I talked about this in my Handshake 5.
That's right.
This is just one of my favorite movies of all time. Not sure how much more to say about it here. The description was fairly accurate. Cross pass is like generous.
See each
it's
other
mostly
from a distance,
right? They blow into each other. Spoilers, sorry, but it's more about these two stories and how, like, it's just a fun movie about films and killing Nazis and how these kind of, it's not even just these two storylines. It's kind of like multiple storylines of these like operations of trying to kill the heads of the Third Reich. And it's told in these kind of different chapters, as Tarantino's famous for. Yeah, this movie's just electric. I think, like, it's Tarantino's, like, for my money, it's his best movie. It's like both entertaining, unique. The dialogue is amazing. It's like edge of your seat, intense. And yeah, I just like the setting, and yeah, just fun to watch.
Yeah, I love this movie too. It's not my favorite of Tarantino's. I think when it's at its best, it's him at his best. But I think there are. We talked about this during maybe I don't know if I said much about it, but like the Shoshana subplot, I think is maybe to me the weakest. Where her and the German sharpshooter, like, it's interesting, but I feel like it doesn't. It's not really necessary, It's because honestly, if you took her and all of it out of it, the movie still resolves the same way, right? She, they're going to blow him up and shoot him, even though she's going to burn them. It's like, I don't know, Jackie Brown or something. That's one where, like, it all comes together, this intricate plot that just interweaves and it all perfectly resolves. And Pulp Fiction, the stories overlap the same way, kind of these do, but in a more satisfying way. I love everything with the Bastards. I love Operation Kino. I love Christoph Waltz and his villain. Like, that final scene is maybe Tarantino's most, like, visceral scene he's ever done. I saw this opening night too, and I could feel this palpable tension as he's doing that. You can feel people, like, pulling. Like, it was just I've never felt that in a theater before. But there are times where it lags a little bit, or it just feels a little disjointed. Like he had this separate storyline that didn't quite fit, but he pushed it in there. But I mean, I love it. I had it, my top 10 too. I think it was I have it number 8, so it's not like I love this movie. But yeah, I would say it's probably my third favorite of his films after Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction. But they're all Yeah, they're all great.
Antonio,
All three.
I wanted to get your thoughts on something here with so
Hmm.
Inglorious Bastards I think is it's some part of it at least about is about this historical like fixing history's wrongs, which I think is
Mhm.
also kind of what Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is about.
Right.
And I was interested in your thoughts on Tarantino's kind of current impulse to try to use like the elements of movies as an institution. In this case, theatrical distribution, film stock, the social functions of the movie theater
Right.
to right history's wrongs. Whereas in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's like literally actors using props to write history's wrongs. And
Django
instead of
also has
Yeah.
some of that.
yeah, Django as well is like
Sure. Sure.
using genre that
Yeah.
way.
Right. Um, it's a really interesting question because this is something I have thought about before, and especially after Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came out. I think this is for me. This is why I feel like this movie would belong on this list, even though I love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But that this movie, because it was almost like one of the first movies to do this, rewriting history and
Mm-hmm.
the power he's bringing power to what cinema can do, um you know because we can see this catharsis of Hitler being machine gunned in the face after this entertaining struggling movie. It's like it it kind of like feeds into our brains and rewrites our cultural perception of
Mm-hmm.
these things, and I think with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's also very powerful because what he does specifically with Sharon Tate, he is bringing her out of being just a victim in the real life story and showing her as her own person, her own
Mm-hmm.
character, and not having her killed in that movie. He gets to stay as like this character and this person. And if you're interested, you can learn more about her as she was a person, not just because of these historical events. So I think for Inglorious Bastards, it's a little more like this Hitler killed himself, he went out like a coward. um this is sort of like, let's have fun with this idea. And what does everyone want to see? They don't want to see Hitler get away. Like, that would be a kind of a
Mm-hmm.
lame ending.
That's
Why
true.
not have him get machine gun in the face? Like, I can do what I want.
So do you think it goes because and again, maybe I don't think about it as deeply, but like, I think of it more just as like, Tarantino who grew up in those grindhouses, and he's all
Mhm.
about giving audiences just like a satisfying cinematic
Yeah.
experience. To me, I guess that's as far as I took it. Is he was just like you said, what would be more satisfying than seeing,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jewish soldiers who, their people being murdered, in the concentration camps, going in there and literally just mowing down the entire
Mm-hmm.
Nazi high command, Hitler just riddled face. It just like, to me, it's just to like, so the theater can just erupt and just be like, yes, that's what we
Right.
want to see.
Totally.
I
But
think
maybe
that's
there
why
is
he
another level.
I think you're right about that. I think maybe I can only speculate as to,
Yeah.
Tarantino's conscious intentions, but I think you're probably hitting it more on the head of what he was thinking of when writing something like this.
Mhm.
I can't. My interpretation is more of like thinking of it. Why does everyone love this movie so much, and what does that do for us?
Yeah.
But I think you're right. Ultimately, he knows what he's writing. He's a master at writing, and he just wants to make a movie that is very entertaining, and leaves us with
Historical
that
side
feeling.
note. Number 3, and actually this was number 3 on my list too, oddly enough. So this matched up. This was I had it number 3. You had it 5, maybe?
I don't know if it-
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah,
this
yeah.
is City of God. Cidade de Deus. It's a Brazilian film. It's from 2002, directed by Fernando Meirelles. Not sure how to say that, but
Meirelles? Yeah.
Meirelles. Meirelles. Says, if you run, the beast catches you. If you stay, the beast eats you. Not much of a choice. In the poverty-stricken favelas of Rio de Janeiro in the 1970s, two young men choose different paths. Rocket is a budding photographer who documents the increasing drug-related violence of his neighborhood, while Jose Z. Pequeno is an ambitious drug dealer diving into a dangerous life of crime. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I've only seen this once. I saw it when it came out and was just floored by just absolutely, I know I've never forgotten that movie, and I've hesitated to rewatch it just because watching it was so powerful that I almost don't want to take the risk of diminishing it. But it left me breathless, and it's got so some of it's just like this beautiful, depiction of the 70s in Rio and the beaches and the nightclubs and just this pure joy. And then there's just utter terror. This Lil Zay, the criminal that was mentioned in the description there, to me, he is one of like the top 10 scariest movie villains of all time. Like, he is just frightening. Like, you watch this and you are scared for the photographer and the friends, and you don't know what's going to happen. He's just like the worst guy. He just flip of a switch. He's just murdering people. And, it's like he's terrorizing the audience as much as he's terrorizing the people in the movie. But again, like, despite, the violence and the depiction of poverty, there's just this joyous side to the movie. And it's like this 70s vibe. And it's just totally immersive. Like, it's like when it's the danger and the crime, you're caught up in that. And you sort of see it. You see it from the kids kind of dabbling in crime to when they're like the crime overlords of their favela. It's just, I don't know, it's just a masterful movie. I don't know. It's what I feel like everyone who makes a movie probably wants to make a movie like this. This is just pure cinema.
Yeah. Yeah, very visceral and immersive movie. I think kind of hit the nail on the head of like how powerful it is. It's really devastating. Like certain scenes are really hard to watch, but at the same time, like so cinematically, like enthralling. And just the amount of effort sometimes you see in one section just to get like one shot. You just are like, wow, they really did that. One that comes to mind is it's been a while since I've seen it, but there's like this sort of time lapse and time skipping scene from a certain angle, and characters will kind of appear in and come out, and without I assume they didn't use like much CGI. I assume it was like in camera kind of camera trickery effects, and it's just so aesthetically like pleasing. And the pairing of like this sort of technique, gritty technique paired with the storytelling that sprawls years it's really cool.
Yeah. I kind of now suddenly do want to rewatch this thing just because I'm remembering how much I loved it and how great it was. I remember the actor, again, probably not saying his name, So Jorge, or I don't know. He's also in Life Aquatic with.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the guy. He's like
doing the David Bowie covers,
David Bowie songs in Portuguese. Yeah. But he's got a very different role, and it's interesting to see kind of his range. Like I don't know much about him other than those two movies, but seeing him in this and seeing him in that, it's like I'd like to see more of him. I need to kind of research him and see what other work he's done. I think he's primarily a singer. In fact, I remember I bought the back when Steve Zissou came out. I bought this. I'm a huge David Bowie fan. So hearing that every time, I was like, "Hey, oh my god, he's doing Rebel Rebel, like he's doing all." So I bought the CD of his Portuguese versions of Bowie. But yeah, like he's just like an added, great thing about this movie is watching him in a totally different kind of performance.
Well, yeah, and I think City of God too. The thing that I always think about with it is just it is so visually stunning. It is such a especially considering just like kind of the circumstances of the locations and stuff that they're shooting in, and it just happens to just happen at just the right time to be on the very tail end of when they would have used film to shoot this. And so they're kind of whipping around the favelas in with these little 16 millimeter cameras, and it looks like nothing else.
No. And I think a lot of people try to sort of copy this style. I think a lot of action movies try to kinda emulate this style, and it never quite achieved the same, feeling and look.
Number two.
Number two. David should do this because you haven't had too much of a
Yeah,
chance.
and this one was on my list.
This was on yours, and this was, I think, 29 or 30. I had this on my list, but not top 10. But yeah, this was one of the crossovers between your lists. So
at number 2, we have from 2007, No Country for Old Men, directed by Joel and Ethan Coen. Tagline: There are no clean getaways. Llewyn Moss stumbles upon dead bodies, $2 million, and a horde of heroin in the Texas desert. But methodical killer Anton Chigurh comes looking for him, with local sheriff Ed Tom Bell hot on his trail. The roles of prey and predator blur as this violent pursuit of money and justice collide. Which is, I guess, more or less correct. But No Country for Old Men is, in my opinion, maybe the Coen brothers' best movie together. The thing I think is fascinating about it is, for me, it was kind of the thing where I kind of clicked in what auteur theory was when I saw it, where it's like the themes that exist in Hudsucker Proxy exist in No Country for Old Men. Obviously, very tonally different movies, but there's this sense of kind of fate and the silence of God that exists in both of them in a very interesting way. Yeah. But I think No Country is, I think, simultaneously an incredibly exciting to watch, like pursuit movie. It's like there's some action. I wouldn't quite call it an action movie, but it's like a thriller. It's like a very, I think, exciting, entertaining thriller, and at the same time has kind of this very weighty, almost slow quality to it. I think of those big, wide open West Texas location work that they're doing, where it's just like, it's just endless land, and there's just like a storm 100 miles away that you can see. And, and then and the score of the movie is all done on Tibetan funerary bells. So it's just like, there's just this kind of dark, brooding, atmospheric tension to it. That I feel like is the only way you can translate the book to a movie, is like, because Cormac McCarthy's work is so singularly heavy, I guess is the word I would use. Is like everything feels like there's this dark, brooding horizon around, that is, it's like it just keeps getting darker the further out it goes. And I feel like that is very much what No Country feels like. Chigurh is this like unstoppable force that the normal rules of the Western start to get around, where it's like the justice system collapses around him. And even fleeing to Mexico, which is the classic move in Westerns to get away from danger, fleeing into Mexico does nothing to stop him.
Yeah. Interesting. Speaking of, I don't know if one of you guys told me this or someone else, but I heard somewhere recently that they were shooting that at the same time There Will Be Blood was being shot. And so occasionally you'll see like some smoke or something. Like there'll be like, the other set kind of creeping into this as you see like, they're filming the oil fire where they're filming this. So, but yeah, those locations are stunning. I liked about this movie, I kind of the No Country for Old Men. I feel like that really kind of is, ultimately, because at the end, Tommy Lee Jones doesn't get his man. He's just sort of left sitting there, and I don't think he's able to psychologically understand someone like Chigurh or that kind of a crime where he's an old man. He's approaching it from this now obsolete kind of method of catching a bad guy. And we just sort of see him, like, one of the last things I think we see him is just he's sitting there thinking like, well, I missed something somewhere. Because it is like his, he kind of got left behind. And then I guess one other thing to add that I'm curious what Antonio says. So when I saw that, I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, like from Raising Arizona on, like
Yeah.
day I was there if possible. I saw everything they saw when it came out in the theaters, and I loved this one. And then I watched it again a couple times, and then recently, like last year or two, I finally read the McCarthy book, and then probably wasn't the wisest move, but like as soon as I finished the book, I opened my computer and watched it again, and it really felt lacking. Obviously, because the book is always better, but it felt so herky jerky and disjointed all of a sudden because there's so much more in the book that wasn't there, and I feel like I kind of in a way I would have had this movie probably in my this would have been much higher had I not kind of back to back done that, because it really. You can't help like certain movies are like sometimes the movie's better, but especially with McCarthy, the book is just so much more. There's just more there, and so I think it's a little unfair of me, but like I feel like. So yeah, just some. Otherwise, I think I would have had this up higher than I did. I think I had it 30th or 31st, but yeah, but yeah. So that's yeah. I do. I still love the movie. Chigurh is a very different and very compelling villain. He's scary in his own way. He's such a
scary,
such a cipher. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never read the book. I'd be interested in reading it, but for me, like this movie is just hits that place of like noir and western, but also like in its own thing. You know, revisionist westerns had been around for a bit, and this is not. I wouldn't say this is really a revisionist western because it's set like in the '80s, so not modern times for the movie. Looking back a little bit, but more of a modern western, and I think an authentic western based on like the themes that it's kind of bringing up and looking at, and the visceralness of like the action and the chase, like David was saying. For me, it's a sign of a great movie when like somebody can be doing little minute things like what Llewellyn does. Like you're seeing him like do these like little tiny things, and then you cut to Chigurh, he's doing these little things and you're just him unscrewing like an air vent becomes like the most tense thing you ever seen. That to me points to like this is just a masterwork of filmmaking. And yeah, I think the Coen brothers, even when they go through genres, they have these certain elements and themes and types of characters that they bring into their stories, that they have a certain worldview, and it's not obvious. So that I think that makes their films like just really interesting. Like I see parallels between like Fargo and this movie, and they're very different tonally.
Yeah, but the Hudsucker comparison is interesting. I think also there's that kind of like, what do they call it? The passing of the baton, or like the idea of old man Hud, and then the young, like it kind of got past him. The way not the exact same thing. Tommy Lee Jones doesn't jump out a window, but like they're kind of the same thing where they don't fit in that world anymore.
I agree. Well, I was thinking too, Antonio, with what you were saying, where it's not quite a revisionist Western. It's almost like, this isn't a term, but it's like almost like a post-Western, where it takes all the elements and it kind of has them there, but they're not working the way you expect them to.
Yeah, and it's not looking down on the genre either. It's not looking down at like that. It's like, this is just how life is and how these people are. And
right. I think you're right, Greg. It's like it's in the title. Like it's almost all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need.
No, I mean, ultimately, by the end, you realize that's kind of what it was. It was, because Tommy Lee Jones at that time, he always over and over was playing that character. He's trying to get Harrison Ford. He's trying to get who he's always.
Right.
He always gets his. He does this. He just gets stymied, and it's almost like he doesn't exactly give up. He just. He doesn't know where to turn. Like he's just at a point where he's just, like you can tell he doesn't know what he's supposed to do next, because, he's not facing something he's faced before. He belongs. He would have been perfect in like a traditional Western. If it was a John Ford movie, he would have fit right in, and he would have found whoever, Lee Van Cleef or whoever John Wayne was, he would have been the John Wayne character, but the world had kind of passed him by.
Right. Yeah, no, it's the end of the Searchers, the door closed, and
Yeah.
that was it. Those guys are still wandering out in the desert somewhere, but they're not, that time is over.
Yep. So we got one left. And this, obviously this is the one that the only movie that we all had in our top 10. And all pretty high too. This was your number one, right, David? And my number two.
All right.
Drum roll.
Number one, drum roll. We have Mulholland Drive, directed by David Lynch, the one, the only.
Yeah.
The late, great David Lynch. This movie came out in 2001. The tagline is "A love story in the city of dreams." Blonde Betty Elms has only just arrived in Hollywood to become a movie star when she meets an enigmatic brunette with amnesia. Meanwhile, as the two set off to solve the second woman's identity, filmmaker Adam Kesher runs into ominous trouble while casting his latest project. Oh, that was a pretty good description, to be honest. I
suppose
I was like, what are we gonna get?
Yeah, that covers the basics of it. Like there's a whole other layer that's not there, but yeah.
Also, there's a monster behind the dumpster.
It's
also going on.
There's a key.
There's a key. There's that man.
The dumpster.
Yeah, this movie's great. I think anybody who watches it, even if they think it's weird, they'll come away having been impacted by it one way or another. I don't really want to get into like my interpretation. I'll talk maybe about like how impressed I am that David Lynch at this point in his career is able to. So this movie was a little bit context. This movie was actually going to be like a TV pilot. I don't know if you guys knew that.
It was going to be like his next Twin Peaks.
Right.
Essentially, yeah.
And it definitely kind of feels like that too once you like rewatch it in that frame. Like the first half definitely has like a kind of element to it. But the project gets canned, and instead of just being like, well, that's that, he's like, he sits down to think of how he can finish it, and it just all comes to him like this sort of way to finish it and turn it into a feature film. And to me, the fact that he can do that and allow this sort of creativity to flow through him, and then for this movie to sort of like revolutionize like art cinema and like kind of be a breath of fresh air for like as we're like beginning this new century. I think it's just great, and the fact that it's also entertaining is really cool because I watch Inland Empire, and the more I watch it, the more I'm like, wow, this might be Lynch's legacy when we look back in 100 years. Like, okay, he was saying something we weren't ready for then, but this is a little more digestible to me, and I don't know. It's just fun to watch too.
Yeah, it's entertaining, and it is because I'd heard it was a pilot, and it's almost like I love how, like you touched on this. I love how he kind of filmed this pilot, didn't get picked up, and not only was he able to like twist it into something completely different from what it started out. I mean, I guess I assume the pilot is that first part, and then
more or less.
Yeah. And like he uses that pilotness as part of it. Like it's almost like, again, I guess we're going to spoil this, or we're going to go. We're going to theorize.
What can you do?
Yeah, like what it turns out, like she's having this kind of like fantasy of like the TV pilot she would have made. So it's like no wonder it looks like a TV pilot because it was her imagining it. Like and then he and like to be able to not only turn this incomplete pilot into like a cohesive, incredible piece of art, but to like sort of subtly reference the fact that this part was it's brilliant, it's genius, and it's like Inland Empire is a much more way more open to interpretation. Like that one, like there is like I've got my thoughts about what's going on there, but but this, I feel like there is, more. There's a couple little loose threads here and there, but like, I think you can pick up clues and create a narrative of what is going on in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes sense. Things like there's that seemingly at the time out of place, like almost like Three Stooges, comedy when the guy robs the office and the black book. But then you kind of realize why it was like that, or even when he goes to his wife and he gets punched in the paint.
Yeah,
like everything with that guy is farce, and you're like, okay, and that makes sense because, this, like I said, this was neck and neck for number one, and like I love this movie, and you can watch this over and over. It's entertaining.
No,
And that's to me, that's the other. That's you can be arty, but to me, like you described the movie like a 20 minutes looking at a wall. Like I don't like that movie. Like
that's pretty. That's pretty glacial.
If you could be entertaining though, if you could make a movie of a wall where you're entertained, that's when you've got something. When you can do something cerebral and deep and making you think, but at the same time, it's fun. It's enjoyable. That's the best of both worlds. That's
sure.
So,
and I feel like the first time I saw Mulholland Drive, when I had no real clue, as to what it was going to be. And for me, the moment where I went, oh, fuck, oh no, it was when the cowboy shows up very briefly at the dinner party towards the end. And I was like, oh no, there's so much more going on here than I thought there was going to be.
It's a very David Lynch thing. You'll see me, Tim. That's such a Lynch, like Twin Peaks. He's always got little, only he created something. That was such
these mystic entities that kind of move through the movie.
Even the way they talk, the phrasing of that. No one says that except a character in a Lynch movie.
Mm-hmm.
He really, we always say a one of a kind. He really was a one of a kind. There's no other.
Yeah.
There's no one like David Lynch, and there probably never will be.
And I think Naomi Watts' performances in this is just incredible. I think it is still underrated, the way she's able to play how silly and gullible and hopeful she is in the first half, and then to get so there's a shot in which you see her transition. It's like a shot reverse shot, and then she's the new character, and with just a look you're just like, holy fuck, this is dark, this is, you just understand how dark her life has gotten.
No, she was great. She would have been great in me in the silent. She would have been great in the silent era. Because she can convey so much. There are some performances because they didn't have any CGI, so these characters transform simply by changing their face.
Right.
And she would have just been right at home there, just as well as she is in stuff like this. Yeah, she's probably my favorite thing about the whole movie.
Well, I feel like a lot of people, Mulholland Drive was at the top of lots of lists. I think it's number 2 on the New York Times list, and it's every critic's list. It frequently appears on there. What is it about Mulholland Drive you think that has penetrated film culture as such to kind of take this place as kind of the top tier? What is there anything specific about this movie?
Maybe this is just my take on things, but I feel like it is David Lynch was able to kind of win over. There's the pretentious, the people that their list is just going to be he has that crowd, but he also makes excellent movies. So people that know and love good film like Lynch, and people who don't know anything but they know what they're supposed to think, they're supposed to say they like. And he's one of the few directors that kind of bridge that, where usually the guys that make great movies kind of get ignored by, that's just, that's, and then the ones I don't like, the half hour staring at the corn growing or something, those are the ones that people, oh, well, yes, but did you notice that one stalk that was growing to the side? I think that was signifying the way that, the Second World, whatever he manages to few people can capture both crowds. He gets the pretentious snobs, and he gets the people with good taste. That's just, maybe I'm nuts for thinking that, but that's what I think it is. Is he actually delivers the goods in the way that a lot of these guys don't, and so everybody. I mean, who doesn't? Well, I don't. There's somebody, but who doesn't love?
They're out there, but not many.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
some
I think
people
there's
they just want popcorn movies, but yeah.
right, there's something for everyone in this movie. There's even if you didn't like one scene, at least the next scene will like somehow capture your attention. I think you can't help but if this is on. I think the first time I saw it, I didn't even see it from the beginning. I just started watching it. I had no idea what was happening, and I was like, "This is incredible. I don't know what this is."
Yeah.
And then I restarted it or whatever. Um, but yeah, just great. And I think why it's becomes like at the top of the list is because maybe it brings to the forefront this idea that we're all willing to buy into like this dream of like cinema, and maybe for some people who haven't gotten into like for lack of a little better word, experimental cinema, this is kind of like pushing it, and it's working on a dream logic, but it's enough in order to keep you grounded into the story and the characters, even though you're like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Like Twin Peaks is a perfect example too, because
Yeah.
like that's such a weird, quirky, non-mainstream, dreamy, arty, but he does it in a way that like you guys maybe aren't old enough, but like that was like Game of Thrones. Like when that was out, everybody watched it, everybody talked about it. He just had some way to reach the average viewer while still entertaining the critical viewer. I don't mean critic, but just someone that watches films with a critical eye. Like Lynch could do that most usually you do either one or the other. Most directors can either be really like Scorsese, he does some interesting cinematic things, but by and large he tells entertaining stories in like entertaining ways, and then he gives it like a depth and a flair, but he's not the same kind of director as David Lynch. At least not usually. I mean, he maybe have moments of it, but Lynch is the one guy who can just be totally crazy and totally out there and still reach the average Joe that would never in a million years watch Goodbye Dragon Inn, like
right. Well, yeah, and I think David Lynch. I think just both of you guys are pretty right there, but I think like David Lynch the work is as complicated or as simple as you need it to be. I think there are some people who are maybe like feel intimidated by the work because they get confused sometimes by it, and I feel like the thing for a lot of people is they're expecting that every little thing means something. That like you have to be like, oh, eagle-eyed, like looking for every little detail. When in reality, I think it often works on a much simpler. Most of his work kind of boils down to an idea that he has, that he then kind of weaves many different ways of getting to the same place. I remember early on when I was like first discovered Mulholland Drive, and I was showing it to like everyone I knew because I was like, you guys, I watched it probably like 10 times in one summer because I was like, you got to see this thing, man. And like try to figure, like always watching people's reactions, like when it switches. But I had my friend who was not like a movies guy, like he had, but he did not have a formal like film education or anything, right? He's like, we're watching it, and it's the scene in the first half where it's like they're singing the song and the camera pulls back and they're on the big set and it's like filming the scene for the 50s movie. And he goes, dang, there's a lot of scenes in this movie where you think you're looking at one thing and the movie slowly reveals that you're looking at something else. And I started vibrating, dude.
That's great.
I was like, dude, you've got it. You've got the whole movie ready.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. Because I was showing it to my girlfriend because she had never seen it before, and she said she had loved Lost Highway, so I was like, oh well, you got to see Mulholland Drive. Throughout watching it, she was like, I'm confused. I don't really know what's happening, and I was like, just keep watching. And then like at the end, she was like, I think I'm a little confused, and I was like, well, what do you think happened? And what she explained, I was like, well, that's what happened.
Yeah, that's
I mean, like you think you didn't get it, but you got it because I don't know, it's just the way it's constructed and the emotional feeling. Like you intuit it, and I think David Lynch has said that often. Like he's like, it's best just intuiting the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly because a lot we keep using the word dreamlike, but sometimes it feels like he dreams something, and then he tries to recreate on film what it was. And dreams don't make sense. Dreams are feelings. When you have a dream, you'll notice some little. Oh yeah, I saw a dog, and so that's why there was a dog in my dream. But the dog was flying, and like, well, the flying dog, it's not really. It's just a dog. You know, I don't know. It's you feel something, you intuit something, and that's what it is.
Hell yeah. I think that's as good a place as any to leave it.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the definitive and official top 10 movies of the 21st century?
I'd love to hear what people have to say, or what their top 10, what we might have missed, what they would have added. Yeah. I got a lot of that in my Substack. You know, I mostly talk about silent movies, and so I get almost no attention. If I get one comment, it's like, oh my god, I got a comment. That thing was just, you know, hundreds of comments. It blew up, and everybody's got, you know, well, where was this one, or what about that one, or how about this? And so, you know, I'm curious what I'd love to see that happen here. I'd love to get feedback from people about, you know, good, bad, love it, hate it. So
if you email us, we'll read it on the next one.
Yeah, we'll do our fan mail.
We'll shout you out.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm happy we got like a good balance of, you know, world cinema and like popular cinema. So I'm pretty happy, and curious to hear what other people say.
I think it's a solid list. I think maybe our cumulative top 10 is even better than my personal top 10, because I think we really pulled some stuff in there. So, you know, I think if I can go back and do it, I'd probably have Goodbye Dragon in somewhere in my 100. But
let's go.
I hadn't seen it. What can I do?
Killing the masses.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll be back next time with a show about something.
We'll figure it out.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.